Jai Guruji Maharaj, Shukrana Guruji Maharaj. With folded hands and gratitude in my heart, I bow to the lotus feet of our beloved Guruji. With his divine grace and due permission, I would like to start the reading of chapter 89, Satsang number 85 from the holy book Light of Divinity. Blessings at the Master's feet. चरण कमल की मौज को कहूँ कैसे अनुमान, कहीं को शोभा नहीं देखा ही परमान. The medieval saint Kabir refused to quantify the pleasure of being at the Sadguru's feet, saying it can't be expressed, as nothing comparable to this pleasure exists in this world. I have felt the same in my life too, for Guruji's blessing have changed my whole life, my perception of life, and given it a new direction and purpose. Intimations of omniscience. In August of 1998, I received a call one evening from a friend, Wing Commander Chopra, asking me to join him at Guruji's place. After stiff resistance, as I had never believed in saints, I agreed, thinking I would oblige my friend. That day, we left from Noida at around 6 in the evening and reached Guruji's place in about 45 minutes. Since it was my first visit, I knew no one in the Sangat except Chopra. We sat there among a gathering of about 15 to 20 people waiting for Guruji. When Guruji came out of his room, we all went and bowed to him, normally at religious gatherings as a gesture of their respect to the Almighty or for the cause of a religious outfit. This is the time funds are raised as people donate money. But Wing Commander Chopra cautioned me that I was not supposed to offer money at Guruji's place. The only things that could be offered to Guruji were either flowers or sweets. Flowers were used to decorate the Satsang hall and sweets were distributed among the Sangats as prasad by Guruji. After Chopra had briefly introduced me, Guruji turned to me and straight away asked, "When are you planning your next visit to Chandigarh?" It surprised me since Chopra knew nothing of my plan and could not have told Guruji about it. Somehow, Guruji knew more than what was conveyed by Chopra. Overcoming my surprise, I replied to Guruji. Guruji wanted to know where I usually stayed in Chandigarh. I told him that I stayed at the home of a friend, IPS officer PP Singh. Guruji remarked that Preetpal Singh was his firm follower. He told me to tell Singh that I had visited Guruji and also ask him to come to Delhi to meet him. The mystery surrounding Guruji and his powers grew. As we settled down, we were offered tea, chai prasad, soothing shabads were being played, and they filled the environment with divine bliss. After a short while, Guruji started distributing sweets and the quantity fascinated me. Guruji used only his right hand to pick and distribute the prasad, but it was hard for everyone to hold on to it with both hands. Physically, Guruji's hands may have been smaller than at least a few persons in the Sangat, but even these people could not hold on to it with both hands. After Guruji had given 2 or 3 rounds of prasad, the cumulative quantity of which would have amounted to at least half a kilogram of sweets for each person, arrangements for serving langar were initiated on Guruji's instructions. At this point, it was hard to believe that any more food could be eaten, but by the time langar was served, I was feeling hungry again. It was only during subsequent visits that I realized that all these experiences related to prasad and langar were not a one-off, but a norm at Guruji's place. For the last 4 to 5 years, I had followed a strict regimen. I would sleep by not later than 9:30 p.m. and then get up early the next morning. But Guruji would let the Sangat go back at a time he deemed appropriate. So we were there till past midnight and left for Noida at around 1 o'clock at night. This was nothing less than a jolt for my body clock. Yet I found that I wasn't sleepy at all, even when kept awake after my usual to-bed hours, and was fresh till I reached home. Immediately on my arrival, I rang up PP Singh to confirm whether what Guruji had said was true. My friend took the call and was jubilant at learning that I had gone to Guruji's place in Empire Estate. It turned out that my friend was glad to know of Guruji's whereabouts since he had lost contact with him after Guruji left Chandigarh. We concluded our conversation at a very odd hour on a happy note. I then replied to questions from my wife about my first visit. After a brief discussion, a very eventful day came to an end. Next evening, I again got a call from Chopra, who wanted to know whether I would join him at Guruji's place. I agreed without hesitation. In Guruji's Sharan, we again enjoyed Shabads, Prasad and Langar. Then Guruji called me, addressing me as Gupta. Back home, I told my family of how Guruji had addressed me as Gupta. My children thought that Guruji had got it wrong. Probably he had forgotten my name. But I took out a blood donor card of mine from my college days and showed it to my kids. They learned for the first time that I used to write Gupta as my surname in college, and it was only after I had set up my business that I started using Singla. Guruji had once again proven that nothing is hidden from him. My wife and children insisted they would join me during my next visit, so we went. It was a journey to Chandigarh and back. Less than a week after meeting Guruji, he told me to go to Chandigarh with my wife and meet P.P. Singh and his family. Guruji's grace made the visit special. Guruji's body exudes a distinct natural fragrance. Throughout our journey to Chandigarh, that fragrance was with us. In Chandigarh, most of our time with the Singh family was spent talking about Guruji. When we were ready to depart, a strong breeze, redolent of Guruji's fragrance, swept past us. Yet Guruji was 250 km away in Delhi. Though understanding Guruji is a task beyond our reach, it is only with his grace that one develops at least a basic level of understanding. With whatever he has shown and allowed me to experience, I can assert that Guruji's fragrance is a sure indicator of Guruji's presence. Anytime, anywhere, whoever calls upon Guruji for his support and protection, Guruji's response to the call is assured as well as immediate. But the call should be from the core of your heart. A few Sangat members are lucky to have dreams of Guruji. You can never have Guruji's dream till he wishes it. In fact, Guruji's appearance in a dream is by no means a casual event and amounts to being in his physical presence. How else would one justify what happened a few years ago? Guruji had come to Neemrana in Rajasthan to inaugurate my wheat flour mill. He was accompanied by some Sangat members. One of them was Mr. Madan, a businessman resident of Gurgaon, who had come with his family. As soon as his daughter Ekta saw the factory, she cried aloud that Guruji had shown her months earlier the entire setup and the function that was to be held. How a short seva took my suffering away. For any devotee, serving the Guru always means great joy and satisfaction. But with Guruji, there is an added dimension. Once, Guruji gave me an opportunity to massage his legs, instructing me to do so from below the knee to the ankle. The overwhelming joy and pleasure I derived is hard to express. After that short half hour of pressing his legs, my hands were filled with Guruji's fragrance. The fragrance decreased only after repeated hand washes and remained for more than 24 hours. And something miraculous too happened. The lower half of my legs was very stiff. In fact, it was my daily practice to have my son stand on the lower portion of my legs, his body weight providing me some relief. It took me a few days to realize that this problem of some 7 to 8 years had been erased by Guruji in that seva service of half an hour on exactly the same portion of his body. Since then, I have never had this stiffness again. So, apart from the bliss, whenever Guruji gives anyone a chance of seva, it invariably benefits the devotee. The Maruti miracles. Our Maruti 800 used to give an average of 12 to 12.5 km per liter of petrol. On every fuel stop, I used to meticulously calculate the average. During the initial few car services, I asked the service center guys to improve the average. They told me clearly that since the car was used only for city driving, any improvement was improbable. When we started coming regularly to Guruji, I calculated and found the average to be a good 19 km per liter. This came in as a surprise and I anticipated a miscalculation, so I kept the finding to myself. On a subsequent fuel recharge, however, I was amazed to get the same mileage. Unable to accept this, I decided to wait for the next fuel stop. I was befuddled when the same figure cropped up. Guruji commented on the fact the next time I was in his presence. Singla, what happened? totally zapped by the figure of 19? Now you realize how the grace of saints can work its magic on not only humans but objects like cars as well. And Guruji's remark was borne out more than once. Once while driving, I looked at the fuel indicator to see that it was touching empty, and turned to a petrol pump. Waiting in the queue of vehicles, I again looked at the indicator and was surprised to observe a sudden jump to the halfway mark. I decided to leave without refilling. A couple of days passed and the indicator was showing empty again after the car had run the expected miles, if we assume that the tank was half filled on the occasion just described. A glance at the fuel indicator after taking a turn towards the petrol pump baffled me. The fuel tank was again half filled. For a miraculous 2 weeks, our car looked like regaining lost fuel at the mere vision of a petrol pump. On a trip to Punjab, we started out from Delhi expecting to just reach the destination with the fuel we had. But contrary to this, we visited that place and came back to Delhi without filling the car with fuel at all. Not just the fuel efficiency but even the space available inside our blessed car seemed to be increasing on an as required basis. To start with, Guruji granted us the prized opportunity to bring langar to his place from where it was prepared. With Guruji's grace, all the utensils containing the packed langar were fitted in and we rolled over to Guruji's place. But with the Sangat increasing daily, the quantity of langar also increased proportionally, and so did the car's capacity. An increase in the size of the drums or the utensils was somehow accommodated in the car. One day Guruji's seemingly casual remark that all the langar drums had fitted in the car saw the car become almost elastic. Once we had all the empty drums after the day's Sangat and were going back to Noida. Just then Guruji instructed all the curtains of the temple to be taken off and given for dry cleaning, some 35 to 40 full-size curtains, each some 15 feet long. Since the dry cleaner was located in Noida, I was asked to try and accommodate some of the curtains. With 4 of us and the drums, not much was expected to fit in. However, to the amazement of everyone, all the curtains adjusted themselves nicely in the car. What, except Guruji's grace, can explain something of this sort? Sweet blessings for diabetic father. My father has been diabetic since the 1980s, needing to take insulin injections twice a day. He came to Guruji and was given burfi, a sweet, as prasad by Guruji. Usually people come out of the Sangat hall, consume the prasad and then go back in and sit down. My father also came out of the hall and asked us what he should do with the 5 to 6 pieces of burfi he had been given. I asked him to eat them all, as Guruji's instructions are that whatever prasad is given is medicine if it is eaten immediately. It loses its effect if taken home or elsewhere. I requested father to polish off the burfis. He argued that the sweets would be poison for him. I told him that these are a form of Guruji's blessing and cannot have any negative impact. On my insistence, he ate the burfis and went back in. Guruji called him and gave him more burfi. Father was not willing to consume the sweets this time, since he thought he was toying with danger now. However, I insisted and he agreed, ate up the prasad and went back. But Guruji was not done yet. He called him for the 3rd time and again gave him burfi. When he had eaten the prasad for the 3rd time, father must have consumed at least half a kilogram of burfi and was sure he would fall seriously ill. He anticipated his blood sugar would rise sharply after he had had sugar equivalent to possibly his cumulative intake for the last 15 years in the past 4 hours. We went back home and received a call from him at 5:30 a.m. the next day. He was amazed to discover that his sugar, which stood at 130 the previous morning, had dropped to 120 after all the burfi he had eaten the last night. The incident points out that anything given at Guruji's place loses physical significance and is prasad. Guruji's blessings during surgeries. My father is not only diabetic but also a heart patient. He once had some chest pain at night. He did not think much of it and used hot bottles and massages to suppress the pain. Somehow he managed to get through the night, but with the situation worsening every passing minute. He finally called me up in the early hours next morning. When I reached his place, we rushed him to Apollo Hospital near Noida. Preliminary investigations indicated that the previous night Dad had had a massive heart attack, and doctors were surprised at the laxity shown in our turning up at the hospital. However, after a complete case analysis, doctors advised a bypass surgery. It was expected to be a complicated affair given that my father is diabetic. It normally takes a diabetic more than double the time to heal than a normal patient, but with no other options left, doctors proceeded with the surgery after taking the consent of a family. Within the short notice of just a few hours, making all the arrangements for surgery was quite challenging. But Guruji's grace was evident in the way the hospital staff supported us. The surgeon was the first to set the ball rolling by offering his blood in the absence of sufficient units available. Moreover, a complicated surgery was carried out under the expert guidance of the head of the heart surgery department, a surgeon who is available in India only for 10 to 12 days a month. The availability of that surgeon is hard to ensure even with appointments made 15 to 20 days in advance. But in our case, without any intimation, he was available in a few hours. My father's experience as he underwent the surgery was not traumatic at all. After he had gained consciousness, he inquired about the preoperative results of the investigations, as he had no idea that he had been operated on. Everything that happened that day had an element that cannot be defined or explained, and in fact shows that smooth sailing for my dad would not have been possible without Guruji's divine intervention. Not just that, the pace of my father's post-surgical recovery was surprising even for doctors. Doctors said it was better than that of a non-diabetic patient, a fact impossible to explain if analyzed medically. We were to witness more of Guruji's power play in hospitals. This time it was my cousin brother Ashok Singla. With his heart trouble dating back to over a decade, he was prescribed a third surgery, and on my advice he came to Guruji. A resident of Chandigarh, he was in Delhi for the surgery for about a week in advance and thus could go for Guruji's darshan on 3-4 occasions before hospitalization. Those few hours in Guruji's charan were good enough to bail him out of any probable trouble in surgery and help his recovery. The surgery went off without any complications, and the pace of recovery was also remarkable as compared with his own experiences on the previous 2 occasions. Cannot be explained, only experienced. I would reiterate that understanding Guruji is beyond our capabilities. Similarly, it is impossible to put your experiences with Guruji into words, as words that can do justice to the stature of these blessings just do not exist. Ever since I have been granted the association of Guruji, a sentence which I have almost invariably used when telling someone of my experiences is, what you feel and what you get as you meet Guruji is something that cannot be explained but can only be experienced. Guruji employs various tools to hide his true nature, and most of us are trapped at a superficial level of contact with Guruji, not reaping the potential benefits Guruji offers us. Guruji can give anything and everything. In fact, Guruji can give what even God would hesitate in granting you. In life, you are allowed to reap only what you have sown, but Guruji can grant what you desire and not only what you deserve, but that desire must be beneficial for us in the long run. Here, devotees have to admit that their vision is limited and can see only the present, but Guruji's vision can traverse through the past, present and future. If you put your life sport in Guruji's hands, you can rest assured of reaching the shore safely. This is where we have to develop the understanding that total surrender leads to total support. Further, due to our human nature, we cannot but try and ask for Guruji's blessings to get a favorable response. But the loss we incur is unimaginable. For once we are in Guruji's Sharan, we are sure to receive his blessings. If you go and ask for something, Guruji will grant the same, and that's it. But if you don't ask and let Guruji decide, his grant is assuredly more than what we can conceive of. Chana cures heart disease. The best way to get the maximum is to abide by Guruji's instructions, and it is a tried and tested fact that whenever he instructs something, all the resources to accomplish the set task are made available by him. There have been innumerable occasions where Guruji has demonstrated this. One of my close friends, S.S. Goel, had a severe heart attack and was rushed to hospital. As I was leaving for Noida that night after the Sangat, I mentioned this to Guruji. Guruji asked me to do something immediately which required some 5 1/4 kgs of chana chickpea. By the time we left, it was already 1 a.m. of a peak winter night. Since per Guruji's instructions, the activity was to be carried out immediately, I started looking for a general store from where I could buy the chana. Against all odds, I was relieved to sight a shop still open just 10 km on my way back. I went to the shop and asked that shopkeeper to pack 5 1/4 kgs of chana. After checking his stock, the storekeeper told me that he only had 4 1/2 kgs. Though the quantity was short of what I wanted, something is better than nothing. So I got it packed and while leaving casually asked the shopkeeper if he was always open at this time. He told me that he normally closes the shop by 10:30 p.m. but today he was reconciling his total stock, an activity he takes up only once in about 3 to 4 months. Though one might dismiss it as mere coincidence, when coincidences favoring you occur too often, one stops doubting the source making them happen. But we were still short of the required quantity of chana, so we continued searching. No shop was open. We reached home a bit disappointed and immediately went ahead to check if some chana was available at home. A container with chanas revived our hopes. When we checked the weight using a small domestic weighing machine, all of us were amazed to find that it was exactly 3/4 kg, just enough to get the right quantity. I did as Guruji had advised. Goel's condition improved dramatically and he was discharged within the next 48 hours. Irrespective of how casual a remark made by Guruji might be, it carries deep impact. Each and every word from Guruji's mouth is aimed at providing his disciple a chance to have an improved tomorrow. His tools, so effectively disguised, often leave us without a clue about what could have happened. It is really that Guruji makes the pros and cons clear. This reminds me of my visit to Punjab with Guruji, who was invited to inaugurate a hospital. After the inauguration, Guruji decided to extend his stay in Punjab for a few more days. Guruji himself ensures proper arrangements for the Sangat stay in such condition. Arrangements for me, along with 3 more Sangat members, were done at the newly inaugurated hospital itself, with the owner of the hospital taking special care of the 4 of us. We had a lot of fun with rich and lavish Punjabi food for us throughout our stay there. Unforgettable hospitality by the staff made it a truly memorable experience. After 4 days of stay, with all the comfort and facilities at our disposal, we returned to Delhi. Guruji told one among the 4 of us that our stay at the hospital was to compensate for the coming back time, which would have seen all 4 of us on hospital beds for 4 months. Guruji's care for his Sangat is endless, and wherever and whenever you need Guruji, he is always there for you. Past years have given me many chances to experience his omnipresence and omnipotence. All that one can say is, thank you, Guruji. Once in the month of January, I was driving back from the Sangat and the fog was so thick that visibility was down to less than a couple of meters. It was taking its toll as the turns on the road were hardly identifiable. After driving 7 to 8 km of the 28 km journey, I gave up. My car was hardly rolling. Stuck in a helpless position, I prayed to Guruji and immediately a car zipped past me. I decided to follow the car without knowing where it was heading. I blindly drove on, guided by that car. After about 40 to 45 minutes of the drive in an area with lesser fog, I realized that we had reached Noida. The car left us at a turn about half a kilometer from my home. Similarly, once on a hot midsummer afternoon, I was driving on a highway when my car stopped. I was unable to identify the fault. Left stranded, I took Guruji's refuge. Out of the blue, a man on the scooter came up to me and inquired if there was any problem. He was a car mechanic, and within 10 to 15 minutes he had identified the problem but said 2 parts need to be replaced. He was back in the next 10 minutes with the parts and repaired the car in a jiffy. Experiences with Guruji are endless. Every day we experience many big and small occurrences which clearly indicate Guruji's support to us. What to talk of those troubles which are averted without even coming near us. I would conclude with a humble request to Guruji to keep all Sangat members in his Sharan, forgiving our mistakes and overlooking our flaws. Satsang of R.P. Singla owns a wheat flour mill in Neemrana. With this, first and foremost, I would like to seek forgiveness from our beloved Guruji for any mistake in the narration of this divine satsang. I would also like to seek forgiveness from each and every one of you for the same, and would like to invite you to the narration of next divine satsang from the holy book Light of Divinity. Thank you, Guruji. Thank you each and every one of you.